live from the bunker will not be seen this week so that we may bring you the following special program.
In place of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen! Not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn! Treacherous as the sea! Stronger than the foundations of the earth! All shall love me and despair!
Hello, everyone. Gotta fix that opening. Damn it. All right. Welcome. It is our Dead from the Dugout, our spin-off show from Jason's show. We pull it out whenever Jason is too lazy to do his show or whatever is going on, laziness or something important. I don't know. Something like that.
Travel, in this case.
Travel, whatever you call it. Yeah, what's with the NPR music? What's wrong with NPR? Man? Everybody loves NPR. All right, let's get on to the show anyway. But before we do, I should introduce my co-host in this endeavor, Cam. Welcome, Cam.
Hey, everybody. It's a strange time to be on. We haven't done this in a while during the day.
Quite a long time, yeah. And, yeah. So, forgive us if we're a little bit off. We haven't done this in a while, and yeah.
And what he means is that he's off. I am ready to perform for our audience and provide you the best daytime entertainment replacement show that I can.
Which is maybe not saying much, but we'll try. Okay. So, Cam, it's been 2 whole days, 3 days. What's been going on with you?
Yesterday was Memorial Day in the glorious United States of America.
Oh,
so
yes.
I have to say I enjoyed that, and because usually we have the show on Sunday night, which is the last thing of before the new week starts. So having had a holiday yesterday, I kind of had this feeling of like, oh, I got to get back for the show, be ready for the show, but so I was so basically I have PTSD from doing Top Lofty Lounge is what I'm saying.
PTSD, oh my.
Yeah.
All right, well, sometimes we have these things.
Let's talk about that for a second if we can. We did a special
PTSD?
No, the show, The Top Lofty Lounge. We did a special deviation from the regular sci-fi to explore Excalibur, and here I will actually link that for everyone so you can go watch that later. But
don't go now. Watch it later.
By all means.
Don't leave the show.
We didn't have a lot of people live. But looks like it's got a few more views than some of our other shows, which, not saying a lot, but we'll take what we can get.
Yeah, that's right. Take what you can get. I agree with that.
And we had a special guest, Aldous, from his own show, The Gutter, that he does on Wednesday nights, and another night too. I'm forgetting right now what it is. But anyway, he was an excellent guest and really knew a lot about Excalibur. So go check that out.
Yeah, right on. But while we're talking though, we have to. I know we don't normally do it for this, but I'm gonna pull up the frogs because everybody loves the frogs.
The frogs are very noisy. I prefer the birds.
Well, the birds, there's no audio with the birds. I can turn it down though.
Yeah,
I can turn it down.
It's not the frogs; it's the wind noise that's really
the wind's annoying you.
Yeah,
there's no windsock on the thing.
Professional as usual.
Well, we're working on a shoestring here.
You mean those sponsors didn't pay off yet?
No, they didn't.
Mm.
No, not very much. Barely enough to keep me in cocaine and hookers.
Oh,
So
you might want to edit that out later.
ladies that well, you guys, come on. All right. Anyway, so we're trying to. This is not my thing. Doing pop culture news. We're gonna try to do some of the stuff that Jason does on his show. Look at some pop culture news, but bear with us because this is not really my thing. I'm not really good at this type of stuff. I was watching Cultural Casino earlier this morning. He does his 6 minutes culture wrap up, and I'm like, hey, wow, this is good. Nice and fast, and it's well done. He goes over a lot of stuff. Truthfully, if you just want a good wrap up and you can't watch Jason's show, go see his show because I don't think I'm going to be able to reach the level of professionalism and knowledge that you're going to get on his show. But, hey.
You could also watch both of their shows.
You could, of course. Yeah.
Typically, on a regular week.
They're on at different times, so, yeah. But, we'll try. We're just here to hang out. If anybody's got anything that they want, to talk about in the chat, throw it up. We can go over it, but we'll go over a little bit about we'll go a little bit about our stuff. I've got a couple items that I thought were kind of interesting, I guess. Did you have anything to add for your anything else you were doing, Cam? I was mentioning I cut the grass. It was beautiful yesterday.
Well, I had my my lawn team came in and cut the grass yesterday, so it was nice for the
lawn
holiday.
Team. Wow.
Yeah. I don't get out and cut the grass. It's I would basically pay I would get rid of everything else to be able to pay for that. I'll get rid of cable TV or whatever other streaming services, as long as I could pay for that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like it.
I love cutting the grass. It's great. I mean, I've got a riding mower because I got a lot of grass. But you get to drive around. But I think I mentioned this on the Top Lofty. But the grass, we had a week and it was raining for most of the week. So it kind of off and on, but it didn't dry out. You don't want to cut the grass if it's wet. That's a big no-no. So Saturday was the first day that it started, we had sun and it dried out. And so I cut it on Sunday. And there is now big piles of grass all over the place. I have to rake it and put it all in because it was just too long. It grew in a week. It grew up halfway up my ankles. So yeah.
Well, that's that Canadian grass. It knows it has a short time to.
That's true.
to thrive,
That's
so
true.
Goes for it.
That's true. You get you should see all the trees. It's oh, it's warm enough. Boom, the leaves are out in less than a week. They don't waste any time. They don't waste any time getting out there because they know it's it's going to be winter before you know it. You can also watch Madman with a show, right? Q2, he's got a show. Do we have a link for his show?
I don't have one handy. I can get one. Let's see.
We can get a link and we'll put on for his show. And you can watch his show too. All these shows much better than my talking about local stuff. But we're gonna have another Dead from the Dugout on Thursday as well. But you know what? I think we're gonna have to get we'll see how this goes. But I probably got to get a topic for that one. This is Gojira says. Oh, sorry. You're gonna say
I was just gonna say we will also be talking about Peter David, comic book and novel writer, who passed away last week. So we will be having that as a bit of a topic.
Yeah. So let's. So we're gonna have. Snob's gonna talk about the some of the recent news, a couple news items, and he's gonna complain a bit, and then Cam will talk about Peter David. I think that's where we'll probably do most of this. More of the show is probably about Peter David. Gujir says I could wreck everything by going super niche and talking about video games. Well, you know what? We can talk about video games too. Cam can talk about. I can talk about video games. Cam can too. We don't do it much. I was thinking about doing some video game stuff. On the channel related to science fiction, maybe, but Cam likes certain games, right? Cam, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, a few. I'm a what you'd call a casual video game player at this point in life, you know. But Gojira, if you're interested in talking about that, let Snob know and we'll have you on.
Yeah, I play some as well. I'm more into the the science fiction type stuff. But I was Cam doesn't do this one, but I meant to ask is I think Cam, it would be great if you and I were playing. What's it called? It's the one where they come down from the. Let me just come down from the first person shooter or third person shooter type game. You come down from space and it's popular right now. What the hell is it called?
Are you talking about
Super Earth?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the.
It's not called Super Earth, but that's where they're from.
Okay.
What the heck is it called?
Check out the game all the kids play.
No, not Fortnite. No, not that.
Oh, okay. I don't know what you're talking about then.
Yeah, those stupid. Helldivers. That's it. Thank you, Gojira. Thank you. Yeah, and this is true here. A games are slaughtering AAA right now. Yeah, I think it would be. You and I playing Helldivers would be fun.
Do they have an old person's league?
Well, it's not really a league. You go in you get into small teams and you go and you fight.
That's what I'm saying. Do they have a special area, a special server for former gamers that are past their prime?
I think it scales. Yeah, Helldivers as well. I think it scales, but
okay.
You just go around, shoot around, and I think we could.
Hey, if I could pretend to be in Starship Troopers kind of thing,
that's basically what it is. They have two planets, and one's a bug planet, and the other's something else. Robots, or I don't know. And you land and you go and you try to complete missions, shoot stuff, and it's pretty fast paced. And we could be bumbling around and shooting each other in the back and missing and getting killed all the time. Probably be. I think I would laugh. Anyway. Helldivers, Helldivers 2, isn't it? Helldivers 2, I think it's the second one. It's pretty. It looks kind of fun, but co-op, not PvP. You play with people, who want you to succeed, not destroy you for giggles. Yeah, that's for sure. But
Okay, so you're playing. All the players are playing against the.
And I think there's a maximum of 3 or 4, something like that. So you come together. You know.
Oh. So we don't have to be embarrassed in front of other people.
No. But I would live stream it, or I would,
Well, yeah, I mean, in the game,
show it afterwards for embarrassment.
I can't take having a 13-year-old kid calling me racist names.
You can kick them out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's not that. It's co-op. It's not super.
Okay. All right. Well, there's a preview. Everyone, Snob has now promised this, so it's got to happen.
I haven't promised it. I mean,
Gojira, are you in?
The problem is I'm cheap, and the game is like $70, and I'm really cheap. So I'm
come on.
What? Come on.
Come on.
Do you tell? Maybe I can. We can never get monetized. I could.
Okay, I'm into this now. Let's do this.
Starship Troopers version of like Left 4 Dead or something. Yeah. Well, do you mind telling them? Okay, what? I'm a console dork. Oh, you only do consoles. Yeah. I don't want a bunch of kids yelling, a bunch of 10-year-olds yelling various racist things.
We'll just have to.
It's funny, but
have to find a few other old PC gamers, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna look into this.
Can I share that what the game you're playing now? Or is that too?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you're playing Diablo 4 now, right? Like that's.
Yeah, I'm playing it on and off a little bit. Yep. And I would love to have some people to play with because the game is super boring, and they're not doing a lot with it. It doesn't matter. Even if I had people to play with, it wouldn't really get much better. It would just be you'd have someone to talk to while you're doing the boring stuff.
I think Helldivers would be much more fun.
All right, let's do it.
And I've been kind of looking at it, going, "Hey, it looks kind of fun." But $70, geez, 70 Canadian dollars. So that's like $5 US or something like that.
All right, well, okay, we can talk about that. Yeah.
All right. Okay, have we wasted enough time? I think we have.
Yes.
All right, let's try and I'm going to try to get through this. What's going on here? All right. Let me pull up my.
Gojira, yeah, that's right. Diablo 4 does allow crossplay on that.
Yeah, but you're not. I mean, we could do that, but you're not really liking it. You're kind of saying it's kind of boring, right?
Well, they have the different seasons and everything. I usually play some, I played this season, for example, and they are, things are continuing to develop in it, and it's worth revisiting every once in a while. It's just I'm not, I can't seem to sustain it for a long period of time.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's try. Let's get up. Let's talk about what's going on in the world. So, Doctor Who. I think everyone. This is somewhat new, but I think everyone's Doctor Who ratings plummet amid reports that the BBC has axed Kuti Gatwa. I was pronounced his name right. He's a Time Lord. So yeah. So there's. I mean, I gotta say, I haven't watched Doctor Who since Capaldi. Same with you, Cam. Is that?
No, I jumped off right after Tenet.
I
had no interest in Matt Smith at all.
I didn't mind those guys.
To be honest with you, I watched old time, Doctor Who, and then when it came back with Christopher Eccleston and Tenet, but it's not Star Wars or Star Trek to me. It never has been, So
I'm kind of the same way. I want, I didn't really watch it much when it was first out, but when they brought it back, I'm like, all right, I'll check it out. And I watched a lot of them, but then we got into, I don't know why I fell off at Capaldi, but I think Capaldi, I've heard people saying Capaldi's not so bad, but since Capaldi, I mean, it's just gone into the down into the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I've been hearing that the ratings have just been terrible this season, and BBC has axed him as a Time Lord. But now I was reading a little bit in the article. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so here's some of the episodes. They're just, season 15 is what they're on now, and just average. Look at that, 3.1 million. That's just huge, but huge drop. But it seems to be saying that they're going to. A lot of people in the in the pop culture science fiction space has been talking about they should just go on hiatus for 10 years or something like that. But I guess Disney paid a fortune for Doctor Who, or they have the rights to it, or they're they've got a deal, so they can't get rid of it. So they're talking about they're going to bring it back. They're this guy's been fired, but they're going to do something. The deal, okay, if you see here, I don't know if I can expand this, but at the very bottom here, BBC Spoken says, as previously stated, on season 16 will be made after season 15 airs, and any other claims just pure speculation. The deal with Disney Plus was for 26 episodes, and we still have an entire spin-off, The War Between the Land and the Sea, to air. As for the rest, we never comment on the Doctor and future storylines. So they have a deal with Disney, so maybe they will be going a little bit more. They're not going to, go on hiatus. They're not going to take a break. There's other rumors been flying around. So, yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Donnie. Donnie's not here, eh? Oh, maybe he'll show up. Let's talk a little bit about The Last of Us. So this has been getting a horrible. I could watch this. You haven't watched this, Cam, have you?
No.
I could watch this, but I just, I have not real interest. I mean, I heard that the first game was good and well done. And the second Last of Us 2 kind of, was kind of weird and a bit off. And then, of course, The Last of Us Season 1 follows the first game and Season 2 follows the second game. But look at this. The finale reached 3.7 million viewers, down 30% from the premiere. Now, I understand that 3.7 million viewers is every platform. That's everything. That's your iPhone. That's everything. That anyone who downloaded or watched the thing is counted in that, which is kind of low. 30% down from the premiere. Season 2 is averaging, though it's averaging above season 1. I don't know if that's so great. Let's go.
Well, this is one of those shows that it would be like if I was in Clockwork Orange and they wanted to torture me, this would be what they'd make me watch.
Yeah, ratings plunge. But it's funny though, because I'm scanning through the article. Oh no, I'm wrong here. Look, 8.2 million cross-platform views. That's everything. But they're down in a big way. Yeah, that's sorry. The first season's final episode had 8.2 million cross-platform, so it's way down. 3.6 way.
Gojira is mentioning, this little bit of the story here in the chat.
Second game was almost universally reviled, yeah, and it had to do with the storyline too. Second season follows that storyline, yeah, which means any gamers who stay bailed, yeah. I think I mean,
yeah.
Anyone watched for Pascal bailed, yeah, because he got killed in the first episode or something of the season, something like that.
Yeah, this is what happens when you take something popular and you pander to lunatics, and then they cry victim, as Gojira is mentioning.
But the thing is, Neil Druckmann made this, and he wrote the story for the game too. So I mean, they're following what they did.
That doesn't mean that he isn't pandering to idiots.
Just
because it's a creator, it doesn't mean that they're doing anything good.
No, they're pandering. But the thing is that they are doing the exact same thing that they did in the game. And I heard about this stuff when the game was out, before they did the TV show, which is why I wasn't that interested in this show in the first place. Even though, I mean, I watched some of The Walking Dead. I would, perhaps I kind of toyed with, watching this. But then I'm like, oh, the second season sucks. They screw everything up. And then now they're just going to do exactly the same. Why bother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's he's not talking about us. It's Gojira talking about us there. I don't think he's talking about us. He's talking about Neil Druckmann, I hope.
Huh. Are you a CW shipper? I don't think
so. Neil Druckmann insisted the second game was fine. He was the head writer of the first game. Was someone there to stop him from being terrible. Yeah. So of course he wants the show to follow the game because he sees nothing wrong with this. Yeah, he wrote it, right? They're having to defend it because otherwise Neil was wrong. Yeah. That's exactly right. Like, the writers can't be wrong. It must be us idiot fans.
Yeah, and
we don't know what we're talking about.
We've talked about this a lot in the past, and it's amazing that it's still going on. That this whole thing about we're getting review bombed, or it's because of trolls on the internet or whatever. It's like these people are grade school level maturity, where they literally can't deal with anyone not praising them. And then they just randomly pick people to blame. And, this whole thing of, someone on the internet said something mean. No, really, no kidding. It's the internet, you morons. It's always going to happen. But grabbing that edge case and saying, this is representative of whatever and why we're victims just stop it, for God's sake.
Yeah. I mean, but on the other hand, though, I understand how these creatives are very sensitive. Like, there's one person who watches our show all the time and always puts a thumbs down.
Are they here? Are they here now?
I don't know. We got to check. Let me check. Is there a thumbs down on it yet? If anybody, this is a bit of a joke, but if anybody looks at our shows, you'll find that, a lot of our shows, we don't have a lot of viewers, but, we get the likes and dislikes are very small in number, but some shows there's always one, just like never more than one, just one dislike. And I'm like, who is the guy who's going around watching every third show and going, watching this show, oh, this sucks. And then he just, every third or fourth show, he shows up, whoever he is, but whatever. It's kind of funny. Q2, they're stretching a story that should be 2 seasons only and not 4. Yeah. So you can't, I don't know if you guys can read this at the very bottom here. It says, Catherine O'Hara is in season 2, and she confirmed that season 3, they're going to do a season 3. Wow. Season 3 is the Abby story. So I mean, what's going on? They don't have. I guess they're continuing to write. They're going to do 4 seasons. I'm not sure what the deal is. I've never even played these games, and the preseason was okay, but watching the actual gamers versus the virtue signalers for several years has been best popcorn in decades. Yeah, you're fighting and stuff. I'm just like, oh, I can't. Yeah, I'm like Cam. I don't have the patience. I'm just like, you know, there's a lot of TV watching options out there, and I'm really tired of watching mediocre stuff. I don't know what you think, Cam. I don't know.
Well, okay.
You don't have a lot of time.
Masochism. Good, sure. Yes, it's a waste of time. Stop doing it. That's why, again, let's take Andor, for example. It's Star Wars, which most people that I've heard are like, oh, it's actually pretty good. But, and I understand people that want to watch it or whatever, but I'm not on that trail at this point. I'm not going to keep running back to Star Wars whenever they do something that doesn't suck and pretend like it'll all be okay. They haven't done the things they need to do. They haven't given up on the crap. They haven't fixed anything. They haven't stopped their dumb attitude and lies like we're talking about, attacking customers, viewers. So no, and this goes for anything else too. It's like, I don't really need any of this stuff. And, I'm not hurting for entertainment when it comes down to it. I have plenty of things that I'd like to rewatch or things that I've never gotten to that aren't infected by all this idiocy. And again, I can't tell other people what to do and what they want for their entertainment. It's always up to the individual customer. But I do kind of wish that people would just say enough is enough, and maybe then we'd finally get some change and have this stop happening. This abusive kind of behavior from these creators.
Yeah. I've seen, just going back to Andor, I've seen season 1. I thought it was, above average. It wasn't the greatest thing ever, but it was, I really, the problem I have is I really like the idea of the Star Wars and to looking at the rebellion side, less of the Jedi and the Force, and like how the rebellion got itself set up, and the backstabbing and the espionage and that kind of thing. I think that's a really great area, and one that I'd be super interested in. But I was a little bit, the second season, there was some rumblings, but overall it seems to be okay. So I might come and watch the second season. I've heard, it's some people say, yeah, it's not better.
Yeah, well, Gojira said boycotts are hard. Yeah, absolutely. Because you have a lot of people that just don't care about any given thing. They're normies, right? They just like, oh, we put whatever in front. I have a friend that's like this. He'll go and watch every Marvel movie there is because it's what he does. He likes to go see movies, and I can't really criticize him for it. I mean, I think that he likes a lot of crap and he supports a lot of crap, but that's not for me to decide. For him, so
yeah, I'm not into organizing things and group stuff. So if people want to, if I boycott something, I'm going to boycott it myself. I'm going to say, no, that's garbage. I'm not going to watch it. That's all. I'm not going to organize or anything. I'm not going to try to herd all the cats to do it. They can do whatever the hell they want, but they're not. They won't get my time or money if I don't like it. But I might check out Andor, but I'm not really switched to go and do it because they've been doing such crap lately. So I'm really like, okay, some people say it's good, and I guess it's the last season. I saw the first season. I thought it was okay, but I'm not going to go out of my way.
James is asking, he says, don't criticize TOS. So you're talking about Star Trek, the original series?
Is this TOS is the original series, or is that terms of service? We can criticize. You want to criticize the original series of Star Trek? Cam?
No, I really don't. I mean, hey, Weatherman's here.
I can do it if I can. Oh yeah, I can criticize it if you want.
Well, I mean that you mean criticize by it like review or criticize as in bash? I mean, I don't have any desire to bash it. I'm sure anything can be picked apart. I mean, we picked apart Tron and the black hole and all these other things. But if you are interested, there is actually a show out there that is currently reviewing the original series. Graham Nolan, who is a comic artist, is doing it. I think the show is called Landing Party on his YouTube channel, and they're going through kind of the same way we're doing with Babylon 5. And in fact, I think it's also on Wednesday nights before our show. So if you're looking for that that kind of criticism, meaning retrospective, then that would be a good place to look.
I don't like to criticize the original series because I don't want the mob to come after me. But to be honest, I really started watching Star Trek during the Next Generation. I saw a bunch of the original series stuff because it was on all the time. But I always, it was the 80s and stuff, and I always found it a little bit, it was old. It was from the 60s and stuff. I appreciate it more a little bit now, but I got into Star Trek from Next Generation really, and then went back and watched some of the stuff. I can appreciate for what it is, but it's not Kirk's always it's very 60s, and
yeah, sure,
I appreciate that, but yeah.
Right, and we should be able to appreciate those things. The mistake that is made today, and I'm not saying it's like, oh, let's say there's some depiction, H.P. Lovecraft is a famous one, right? That, oh, he was a horrible racist. Yeah, he was. And there's various racist things in there, but if you can deal with that, then you can also deal with what it is. Now, Star Trek original series doesn't seem to be a racist thing, but they it would be accused, as some people are saying, as sexist, with Kirk and his parade of alien women or whatever. I guess there's not that many, but he's kind of a ladies' man, and that's fine.
I
You
like
could
that about that show.
Yeah, sure. You can disagree with that and still enjoy it for what it is. You don't have to take personal offense at every single thing out there that doesn't agree with your modern sensibilities. And it's not a great idea to measure everything by your modern sense. I mean, you can because you're saying this is, here's where we are today. Here's, you can look at anything from history and do that, but it doesn't mean you need to be offended by it. That's the difference. Is you can judge anything, but pretending like you're somehow harmed by the existence of these things is, silly. So I encourage people to enjoy those classic things in any form, and I know you do as well with especially sci-fi novels and fiction. But hey, Dave Pensack is here.
Yeah, Dave, welcome. TNG, that's kind of where I really got my Star Trek started. And I would admit that, the first two, well, especially the first two, maybe the first three seasons are pretty weak. But I think when you get into season 5, 6, and 7, then you're really seeing some classic science fiction stories that are going, that are pulling from different themes, different types of stories, much more well done. Cute. There's a big difference between those two for sure, James. I would agree. Sorry, I meant to put up this one. Put in perspective, too, us came in time. Entertainment was changing after the end of the Hays Code policies and Hollywood. Yeah, there's a big changes going on with what's going on. We could talk about the best TNG books are written by Peter David.
Well, yeah, we can talk about that in a second.
Talk about that in a second. So should I talk about? I wish Donnie was here. Because this would be perfect for him. I was hoping if anybody sees Donnie out there, give him a hard time. Because this next one, I saw this. I put this in just for him. Jonathan Entwistle reveals what Netflix plans for its ambitious Power Rangers cinematic universe. So I understand that Netflix is going to have a ambitious Power Rangers cinematic universe. They're going to do a whole bunch of stuff for the Power Rangers. Now, I'm not a big, Power Rangers fan. I know Donnie is, and he's a sort of a regular on Jason's show. The Power Rangers was kind of after my time. I think same with you too, Cam, I believe.
Yeah. I actually did see some of it on, when it played in, I guess, early '90s and such, but I didn't watch it faithfully.
Yeah, so I was already out of like it's kind of it's kind of for teens, sort of that you know I was already out of that. I was already out of my into my 20s plus when it sort of came out. Now, I mean, I appreciate the campiness of it, the big guy, the big robots fighting in the in the small miniature village and stuff running around. I appreciate that, but I never was a big fan of it. But the fact that they're doing something, um,
Well,
Disney returning to the Morphin Grid, all these sort of, it's kind of interesting, I think. Yeah.
oddly enough, I knew, and I say that kind of loosely, meaning met and talked to online and things. The stunt coordinator that worked on Power Rangers.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Because that's
Jeff
interesting.
Jeff
There's some
Pruitt
good
was his name.
stunts there.
Yeah, he was the stunt coordinator on Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well. So that's kind of where I knew him from.
Okay. Oh, Q2, there are reports they've canceled it. I mean, I think this would be a good. When is this article from? I think article is from like not too long ago, May 26th. That's like yesterday. Canceled it. I mean, I think this could be a good universe, to dip into and to put a show on.
Well, maybe we should pin that and see if we can get a hold of Donnie and then come back to it on Thursday. See if we got any fresh
I mean,
news.
I think the shows are a little bit, they're a little formulaic and kind of the same all the time. I think you could, maybe improve things a little there with the writing and not, go a little bit deeper and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, you could do a good job with that. Right. Let's pin that. Do you want to do promo?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. And then we'll talk about Peter David. Cam wants to do a promo. Here we go. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Okay, so this is just a campaign of a friend that has a professional friend, I should say. Meaning I know him as a customer and him as a creator, but and Twitter friend as well. So the Band of the Crow, he Arvid Nelson and is the writer for this book, and he put out a preview book a while back that was like $5 or something plus shipping, and this book looks absolutely fantastic. And so now this is the full first issue that's coming out, and I think it's $12 US or something like that. And this is an oversized, so it's like it's not quite magazine sized, but maybe Golden Age era sized comic. Glossy paper, great production value. The art is fantastic in this, and it's running on Kickstarter right now, and he's got about 8 days left. So it's a fabulous bargain in terms of indie comics costs. And I think if you're at all interested in fantasy stories, this will be something you might like. So just thought I'd give it a little shout.
It does look, the art looks really good.
Yeah,
really
it's fabulous.
And $12 is pretty, 64 pages, I think it says. $12. Yeah. It's pretty, that's pretty,
Per page, that's cheaper than a standard floppy you're going to get today.
Yeah. What was it? Was it Dark Horse? They always did their first book. They did it for $10 instead of 20. But at least 20 for a graphic novel is kind of what you'd expect right now. I would think.
Weatherman, any steampunk? Not yet. It's pretty straightforward medieval fantasy kind of setting right now. It's not set on Earth. It's its own fantasy world.
It looks pretty, pretty much fantasy, straight fantasy, I'd say.
Yeah. So check it out. Yeah, see, so some of that just looks great.
I'm just scrolling through. So it looks like he's got book one, and then he's got a shorter introductory book, which is about half the size for $5. That's a good price.
Yep.
32 pages. Like proper, like not a comic. I mean, you pay $5 US for a comic book nowadays, right?
Yeah, easily.
And those are usually 20 pages.
Yeah,
20
20
to
pages of
24
story
pages.
at this point. Yeah, maybe squeeze 22 out, but yeah, about 20
Yeah.
these days.
And that's on, that's, I mean, it's, they're usually using better paper. They're not using newsprint anymore, but for most of them, but still, like, this would be probably better quality, I would think, right? Or at least similar. No, I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, this
but-
is. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. It's like the production value, like the quality and print and everything. Yeah, is better than your average comic from today.
All right, so Cam put the link in the chat, and if you want to check it out, go check it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Let's talk about. Shall we talk about the legend?
Sure.
This is Cam's area because I'm not a super big comic book guy. I don't know as much.
Yeah. So last Saturday, the 24th, Peter David, who, probably best known for comics, but also Star Trek writer, Babylon. He wrote 2 episodes of Babylon 5, which will be coming into in a couple of weeks or months. Let's see. He wrote. Well, I'll get back to it. Anyway, he passed away last Saturday, and he's had some health problems and things in recent years, and some financial problems and things like that. And so, fair warning: if anybody's a super fan of Peter David, I'm not, and I'm gonna kind of speak bluntly about him. I don't want to speak unkindly of him. Because I do respect his work and everything, but this is not going to be a tribute. It's a news report with my commentary on it. So, just fair warning if you are offended by some less than glowing words. Anyway, so Babylon 5, yeah, he's going to be. I think it's episode 7 and 14 for season 2, so we'll be coming on those relatively quickly, within a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, hitting those. Honestly, I don't remember that much about those episodes, so I'll have to catch them on the rewatch as well. But he is famous for being a longtime comic writer, and was really big throughout the 90s. He had a huge long run on the Incredible Hulk, which I read those and enjoyed them at the time. He also had kind of a relaunch of X Factor, which is an X-Men book, which I didn't love that much, but I think he came back to that one actually a couple times. And then he also had a run on Aquaman, which a lot of people consider to be one of the, kind of a rejuvenation of the character. Aquaman is kind of that. It's like, oh, Aquaman, he talks to fish, thing. The joke that became common everywhere, and so he kind of broke that. The joke was still going on all during the time, but he made Aquaman into kind of a an aggressive character. He got his hand chopped off and replaced it with this cybernetic hook thing, and he had long hair, and his costume changed and everything. So he was really a modern take on Aquaman. Now, to be honest with you, I don't like that take on Aquaman. I never did, because I'm not somebody who scoffed at Aquaman as a character before, and there were some Aquaman series that I enjoyed before that, and I think they threw them away, and then went this other direction. So I'm not personally a fan of it, but I know a lot of people are. I didn't read a lot of them. I read some of them, but everyone has their different preferences for those things. I'm of the opinion that a lot of people look back at the 90s as being the glory days of comics. I'm not one of those people. I collected all through the 90s. There are a lot of books I loved. Yeah, Gojira, that's right. The Hook. But I look back at the 90s as kind of the era when comics fell off a cliff. It's when a lot of stupid crap was happening. It doesn't mean there weren't good stories during the 90s, because there were, but it's when the the industry got into a lot of nonsense and speculators and all this stuff and it really kind of went bad. So, a lot of the indie comics guys today, Comicsgate or Iron Age and everything, they look back to the 90s like, oh, the 90s were the greatest. It's like, nah, not in my opinion. The 70s and 80s were really the glory days of comics and good storytelling. Anyway, that's a bit of an aside. So Peter David, he worked on a lot of comics. Q2 Cast, yeah, that's right. He was the writer on Spider-Man 2099, I think, for almost the entire run. And I think he quit at some point very near the end, like a couple issues before it was canceled, kind of thing. But he was a writer on Young Justice comic that became, well, actually I think he was a writer on the TV show as well, which was an excellent animated TV show that came out in like 2010. They had like 2 seasons and it was canceled for a long time and then brought back, I think, in 2018 for a 3rd season. I think they might have had a 4th, but the first 2 seasons of that show were really good.
Yeah, I've seen Young Justice. Season 4 is really bad. It's very woke.
Okay.
Season 1 and 2 are great. Awesome writing. And I'm just looking up here. He worked on the Young Justice animated series.
So, someone else mentioned in the chat that he wrote a number of Star Trek novels as well. One of them called Imzadi, which is it's a Riker and Troy thing, was very popular, as I understand. I never read that one. I might have read one of his others, but I didn't read that many Star Trek novels myself. But he's got a huge body of work where he does all kinds of different TV, novels, comics. But like I said, it seems to be he's most known for comics. He's also I guess I don't know if I'd say he's a controversial character, but he was known to be kind of a outspoken kind of guy, before that was a big thing. And today in comics, you have comic creators working in the mainstream that'll cuss out their customers and things like that. And I don't know that Peter David ever was known for cussing anybody out. I saw him at conventions, myself, where he was talking about things, and he was kind of an over the top kind of character that it's not the kind of personality that appeals to me, but that's okay. With that, back in those days, you could enjoy someone's writing and not need to know much more about them or care. And so, and obviously he's welcome to his own opinions. He's very much, he was very much a leftist, or progressive, I guess he'd probably describe himself as. And some of that came into his work. Now, the modern, and I'm sorry, if you want to say anything, Snob, or should I just keep going?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just kind of stream of consciousness here. But the modern mainstream comic thing that came about in 2015 to 2017 was that comics were this horrible racist, sexist thing, and these brilliant minds that came to comics in that time discovered diversity and brought all this to the world of comics. Well, that's a lie, of course, and decades before, literally decades before, these idiots decided that they, could tell everyone what comics were supposed to be about. You had guys like Peter David out there, and he had gay characters, for example. And it, now there was some controversy about that, because he basically took a character who wasn't gay and said, oh, he now is, things like that. But, people don't own the character. I mean, and these weren't necessarily like it's not like we're talking Superman or something here, or Batman, but he included those things in his stories. And I remember there was in the Hulk comic in which he worked with a lot of the big artists that worked on Hulk, Dale Keown, and it was after John Byrne, Gary Frank, really, really good Hulk artists. And he, there was this one storyline where it's like basically these figures, like I guess they were immortals. They from Greek mythology, like Agamemnon and all, were actual people still and alive. And so one of the characters in there, I think it was Hector, actually, Hector of Troy, or the Trojan War. Was he was gay, or something like that. But then there were other characters as well that, because again, it's a thing for him. I guess it was one of his causes that he was interested in, and so he had these in various stories. And again, if you have a story that has a character that is X, Y, or Z, fine. And it didn't seem to me that it was like things became later, where it's like, oh, here's a character. Well, what are they about? Well, they're gay, or they're this, or they're that. It was the character was the character, and he was in this case gay, kind of thing. So compliments to Peter David for writing stories that incorporated things he wanted to, whether people like that or not, that's up to them, without making it just about that, So, but again, I want to note this because again, he's one of the people that these other idiots of today are if you like the fact that there were gay characters in comics, these people from 2017 are stealing this guy's valor, right? He did these things in comics in the 80s and 90s, when supposedly none of those things existed. He also, well, just real quickly, he he started out as working in sales, I think, at Marvel Comics, and he had a problem breaking into writing until somewhat later, and his entry into it was kind of slow. But then he was one of the big names in comic writing in the 90s. Now, also in the 90s, I'm sorry, let me pause there and see if you got anything to say, Snow.
Yeah, I'm just not really just adding to what you're talking about. I'm just reading about his, I'm looking on checking his political stuff. He seems much like an old school liberal, right? He's he's on the left for sure, but he's more than happy to criticize various political figures on the left, Clinton and Obama, those guys, if he feels they're doing right, but he's not like a modern leftist that we see nowadays, where he believes in his things and he's willing to stand up for it, and he's not afraid to criticize the people who are on the left who he thinks are doing something wrong or something like that. So and I'm more of an old school leftist.
Yeah, and I'm not criticizing for having his own views. That's
of course,
whether I agree with him or not. But
it's and he criticized ideas associated with liberalism or political correctness. So I think he's an anti. He's a big probably a free speech promoter.
And
not liking political correctness, which is kind of where we've gone nowadays. But anyway.
Yeah, and he was involved with a comic book legal defense fund, which at one time was about free speech and free expression. Now it's just a cudgel against anyone who doesn't say what's needed, kind of thing. It's just
he seems to have a lot of just going through his his Wikipedia with his public image. He seems to have a lot of beefs with various people.
He does, so that's what I was going to say.
They're valid, but
well, but, I don't.
He's not afraid to say, like he's got it's like he's got Frank Miller, Jim Shooter, Todd McFarlane in the early '90s. He's criticizing. I don't like what you're doing.
That's what I was just going to get into a little bit. Was in the '90s, you also had, the mainstream was shaken up very significantly, mostly by Image Comics. When people aren't familiar, basically these top artists, very popular young artists from Marvel, broke off. They were on main books, X-Men, Spider-Man, kind of thing, and they left and made their own company, which became a mess of its own. But it was a big thing, in that time, and it kind of drove a stake into the heart of mainstream comics for a while. And then there were other companies too, again, and the 90s was both good and bad for comics. Ended up bad, I think, but started out with some good stuff. Anyway, he was like I said, I was going to say some unkind things, so I'll just be blunt about it. He's mouthy. He's a guy who maybe can consider what he says a little more, but again, that's not for me to decide. He can say whatever he wants, and he has his opinions, and he did have a lot of clashes with people. But at some point, it's one of those kinds of things. It's like if every day you run into an asshole, pardon my language, you might be the a-hole. It's
No, I'm pretty sure it's them, Cam. It's not me. It's them.
Right,
Sure.
right. So there's another thing that he wrote, which again, I've kind of left behind a lot of the Marvel stuff, so I'm not sure. But he wrote a book, and George Perez did the art, called Hulk: Future Imperfect, which was this era that I was talking about, where Hulk was hanging around with these guys from the Trojan War and all that, these figures, and he was kind of like the leader of this big organization. And this is when Hulk was, Banner's brain was kind of active. He was intelligent at the time. It's like there was a whole series of things where it was dealing with the Hulk and how he became the Hulk and why, and all these split personality and mental issues that are all wrapped up in the Hulk. And he basically brought it to a point where Hulk was just an intelligent, fully, kind of like in the movies, when
Professor Hulk.
Right, exactly. That's where this came from, right? As far as I know, this is the first time this was Peter David that
the melding of Bruce Banner and the Hulk.
Yeah. So, like I said, he had a very long run on that. But there was it was a 2-issue, I think it was a 2-issue book called Hulk: Future Imperfect, in which this Hulk from the current day is brought into the future, where these people are trying to get him to fight his future self, which he's called the Maestro, which is basically, again, still, fully intelligent and everything. And he's like a tyrant, basically. And so I think there's a lot of things that grew out of that particular work and were used in other various ways. Again, I'm not totally familiar with all the different Hulk stuff that's gone on, but Hulk, in, I don't know, the past 15, maybe 20 years, has become, again, even when Banner, Professor Hulk was there and he was intelligent and everything, he wasn't, he was a very powerful character, but they went like to 11, with it, where it's basically he's unkillable. He's basically Wolverine healing on top of the Hulk and all this, it just went absolutely crazy with it. And I think a lot of that, my belief is that's rooted in this Future Imperfect storyline that Peter David wrote. Worth picking up. It's pretty cool. Again, George Perez art, so hard to go wrong there. Well, okay, so then he was a big name, got all kinds of work, did all kinds of different books, and then later in life here, I think his career tapered off. It's not that he didn't work. He did a lot of different things. And for example, he wrote episodes of Young Justice cartoon, the good seasons of it. And did,
first
still
two
work.
seasons are just great. I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. It's in my opinion, it's the best Justice League show there's ever been. And that's saying a lot, because the Justice League JLA and Justice League International were great cartoons on their own.
I would maybe go so far as to say, is it the best superhero cartoon ever made? Offhand, I can't think of any that are better than it. But the first two seasons, especially the second season with the with Betrayal, and the first season's a little slow because they're kind of getting them together, but it's still good.
I think it's
the
my
second
favorite
season with the Betrayal and the that stuff, the behind the scenes, what's going on, and we never really know until the end. That's some good writing.
Yeah, and I'm it's one of those things. It's like I was, as it was coming, because again, the first two seasons then ended, and it was clearly they had plans to go forward with it, right? And then it was canceled or hiatus or whatever you want to call it, and then it was so long before they came back. I can't imagine that what they ended up doing in season 3 and 4 would have been what they did if they had just continued on. In due course.
Season 3, I think, is cut, like it's shortened or something. And I just remember season 4, and it's just really weird.
Yeah.
There's the the Superboy and the Phantom Zone storyline, which isn't so bad, but then the other storyline is just like, everybody's got to be some sort of diversity thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really pushed a lot, and you're like, why can't you just write a story instead of that? But anyway,
right. But it incorporated so many characters in the first 2 seasons that you hadn't seen, and did it in a really solid way. And like I said, I said it's a Justice League movie. I mean, it is Young Justice, but it focuses on the younger characters, but the represent the older characters from the Justice League are in there. Batman, Superman, and the way that they bring them in and out of the story is fantastic. I mean, yeah. So it's definitely a recommend.
And you think that a Young Justice is going to be like a kiddie story, but it's not. It is a serious story about serious things,
right?
And there might be kids dealing with it, but it's done. It's done very well.
Yeah, and well, there's a time jump between season 1 and season 2 as well.
A little, not too long.
I think it's like 5.
Is it 5 years? I thought it was.
It's a couple of years at least, because
maybe.
Spoiler: Nightwing shows up in the second season, right? And as everyone knows, Nightwing is Dick Grayson, who was originally Robin.
But he's not the Robin in season 1.
He is.
Is he?
Yeah.
All right, my mistake. I gotta watch it again.
Yeah. Maybe we should delve into Young Justice at some point.
It's a great show.
Yeah.
Batman the animated series would say no. I'm not sure where I would go with those. I mean,
well, it's a classic as well. I mean, hard to beat. I mean, it's a fantastic show. So yeah, well, that's true. I can't argue with that being great. And like I said, Justice League and Justice League International were also great shows. So we used to have good things like that. Anyway, so we've kind of got off on a tangent, but so sadly, Peter David's career kind of as older comic creators aren't treated very well in the comic book industry.
Yeah.
They don't have any real job security. A lot of them end up having financial problems. Peter David being one of them. He had some kind of tax problem, as I understand it, and was paying things off. And then he had some health issues, which were significant. Of course, bills, for that. So, and I think he was not in good shape, for a while before he passed away. So, it's sad to hear. Again, whether you like his work or not, he was a fixture in comics for, a good 20 years. His body of work is there to be, explored by people. Certainly I think he's earned his place in the world of comics. He's worth reading, some of his things, check some of his stuff out and see, what you might like. But
now I have a question here to ask you, Cam, and this is a general one. And maybe they do this and I'm just not really aware. So for example, I am not a big, you have been involved in comics since, whatever, the 80s, early collecting, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of a dip in and out type of guy. But now that I'm old and looking for good stories to read, I want to read some of these famous runs, ones that are really good. I don't want to go and, read all of the all the Spider-Man comics from, 1960, whatever, until now. That would just be impossible.
Sure.
But I would just want to get the good ones. Do they not? And they should be doing this if they aren't. I mean, they should be collecting, the good runs of certain, great artists and great writers, and saying, hey, here's this famous run that we talk about all the time. You can just go and pick up the whole run and read it all in, however many, maybe, one big omnibus or maybe a couple of graphic novels or whatever.
You can definitely do that.
Can people do that? Are they doing that?
Yep, there's both Marvel and DC and other companies too. But if for example, I'm just looking at my shelf over here. There is Walter Simonson. Walt Simonson had a run on Thor in the I don't know if it was. I don't remember exactly when it began, but it was through the mid '80s, early and mid '80s. And they put out hardcover. It's like basically all of his stuff. And for example, I also have a John Byrne Alpha Flight. He was the originator of Alpha Flight. And his run was, I think, 28 issues or something like that, and then some others that came a little later, whatever. That's all in one hardback. If there's I'm trying to remember what. Oh, it's I think it's the Marvel ones are
You're,
called. I'm
yeah,
sorry, I was leaning away from the microphone a little bit there.
yeah,
I think it's called the Epic Collection for Marvel, where they so I'll just say Captain America as an example. So they have these books that are, I want to say maybe 15 to 18 issues kind of thing. Graphic trade paperbacks of particular runs, and the thing is they're doing them out of order in most cases. It's like they might put out like issue 200 to 220 or something like that, and then that might have come out first, and then they have one that's issue 109 to whatever. And so they're but you've got pretty good coverage for those things, and I think they're going for the most popular. So those are
yeah,
widely available for Marvel and DC. And when I'm thinking of classic runs, I'm thinking 70s and 80s. For
yeah,
example, Iron Fist was, I think it came out in 1974 or something like that. It was a John Byrne book, one of his early books, I think. And it was fantastic. It's like I had never read those before. I knew a little bit about the character and read him, but I got the collected, the Epic edition or whatever, and read those. Again, they're dirt cheap when it comes down to it for the amount of pages you get. So yeah,
yeah,
definitely that's the way to go for those. And you
yeah.
could get,
So
I mean, almost anything of at least those two mainstream companies.
yeah, I've got yeah, Gojira. Yeah, that's the way to do it for me. I can't go back. Like I think I've read some of these. For example, I've read the um, Darkest Night, Brightest Day, Darkest Night, Green
Hmm.
Lantern series,
Yeah.
because they're in a compendium, and I got them from the library. I think I've read the Secret Wars one. There's a bunch of them that I have read, but it would be good. Maybe we should, to pull out when we dig into comics, to pull out some of the really good runs and highlight them, because I might go and say, oh, that looks interesting, but I wouldn't I wouldn't offhand know that hey, I should go check this out, or whatever, right? Like maybe
Sure.
we should try to highlight that with some
Well,
for our
there's a lot of
viewers.
them. For example, I've been talking just uh, literally yesterday. I was talking about breaking out Crisis on Infinite Earths, the original from 1985,
Right.
and reading through that.
Yeah, that would be
Be,
good.
because that's I was talking to someone else about reading it, and I said it's like drinking from a fire hose, because it comes, and that's when I started collecting. Literally the month that came out was when I started broadly collecting comics. Meaning I had comics before and collected GI Joe faithfully, but I dove in head first into comics in a bigger way when that happened. And it was great because I mean, there's all these things, all these characters and references and things. I have no idea what this is. And back in those days, you didn't have all these trade paperbacks, but you had back issue bins and stuff. You can go and find these
Yeah.
things and pick out favorite stuff. And a lot of people don't like that series. I think it's a masterpiece. Because short version, it was taking the mess of 50 years of DC Comics with all their continuity issues and everything and trying to reset.
Yeah.
Now, that reset has become something they just do all the time and it
Yeah.
sucks. But this was a reset that maybe was justified. And I'm not saying anything bad about the stuff that came before or that the stuff that came after was better, but in terms of a story itself, I love it to this day. Again, it's nostalgic for me, and so other people might not like it. But there's many others after that too. There was a series that followed that up called Legends. It was John Byrne had left Marvel and came to DC and basically was the writer of the revised Superman. and he did a comic called Man of Steel that was a 6-issue series that was basically resetting Superman and saying this is Superman now going forward. Fantastic. That's also fantastic. Man of Steel, if you want to get that original series from 1986 or 87, I think 86. And then there was another one he did called Legends, which was kind of like a reset on, because there was a lot of fallout from Crisis on Infinite Earth. So Legends was kind of resetting the Justice League and where that was, and with Wonder Woman and all the different changes, because it wasn't like a complete reboot. It was an in-universe reboot, where there were events that actually happened that caused these things. So it's very complex, but very cool, especially if you like nostalgic comics, from, well, yeah, I mean, going back before, that was 1985. So that's, many, many years ago, of course. 40, oh my God, 40 years ago. So it's almost as long since then, going back to the beginning of DC Comics. 50 years. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, Gujira is making a point here about Flashpoint Paradox. And in fact, that's the way that I've, mostly been exposed to these stories at first, is through Adult Swim and their DCEU films, which the vast majority from like 2008 beyond are, in my opinion, very good. And they go over these things like, there's the recently they a couple months ago they did it's a 3-parter. It's like 4.5 hours. Crisis on Infinite Earths. Mm-hmm. The Flashpoint Paradox is done there. There's a bunch of them done. I really saw I like Crisis on Two Earths. That was that's kind of my favorite. But
the issue,
that's kind of a issue similar to that. But anyway,
my understanding is I haven't seen all of it. There's a lot of DC animation, and it's far better than their live action movies, I think.
Far better.
But I think that they're not terribly. The continuity between those things isn't great either. And
well, there's some, okay. So if you look at I'm not sure about the continuity wise, but if you look at the movies, all the movies, like, they build on each other, and they're like a series of movies, kind of like the way Marvel did it before. They've done it in the DC animated universe. And, there's a one point in, there's one thing that happens in Flashpoint Paradox in the movie where what's his name, Flash's Enemy there,
Reverse Flash.
No, well, yeah, Reverse Flash,
Professor Zoom, or
Zoom. He gets shot, and then that kind of solves the problem, so to speak. Batman shoots him or something. And then there's a Suicide Squad movie which refers to that, which is the basis of that happening. So there's some pretty good writing in the DCEU. All the Justice League movies go together one after the other, and they end off, and they end up having to reset everything. And then that is referred to later on in another movie. In Crisis on Infinite Earths, which they put out more recently, the 3-parter. So there's a lot of stuff done in there. It's quite good.
Now, a lot of those things don't necessarily align with the comic version either.
Yes. Which is why I would like to read the comics and get the true story. I enjoy the movie version, but I'm like, I should probably read the real one and see what the differences are and stuff.
Yeah, and I would actually love to go back and, like, I've seen just bits and pieces of the animated movies. I would love to see the whole thing. I don't know if there's some place that has them all available on streaming or something, but I wouldn't mind going back to the very beginning of that. And
yeah, you have to it's like they're not all connected. Like the Batman ones are generally it's Batman, and then they might they don't generally cross reference, and the Superman ones are the same, but the Justice League ones sort of build on each other, and sometimes they poke into other areas and reference stuff. There's some great Under the Red Hood, I think is probably one of the best Batman ones, the one that I like the most. But there's so many Batman ones. Red Sun for Superman was good. They do the Superman, the death of Superman. They kind of go over that very quickly, but more interesting is the after effects. What's it called? Where the four Supermen show up.
Age of the Superman, is
it? Reign of the Superman.
Reign of the Superman.
Yeah. So that one's very good. There's a whole ton of Batman ones. Under the Red Hood is, I think, my personal favorite, but there's so many Batman ones. They're all different levels of what you like, but tons of stuff there. I don't mind the adaptions in the Weatherman disagrees, but I enjoyed the versions that I saw. But again, of course, I don't know what I don't know the differences. So HBO Max did have all the DC animation at one point. It'd be nice to go through and just watch them all.
Yeah. Okay, got to start a new channel for that, I guess, right?
From front to back. I enjoyed the Crisis storyline. It was a little slow because it was 3 movies. It was, each one was an hour and a half. Did you catch the leading movie War World? Wonder Woman, the Old West? Yeah. I actually, that was on a couple weeks ago, and my kids and I watched it. Batman, Conan, yeah. I watched the. It was interesting. Gojira says that it was interesting because I watched Crisis first because I hadn't seen War World. There's another War World one. I saw a different War World one, but I can't remember what it's called. But it has War World and Mongo, I guess, is running War World, and it comes to Earth, and they got to we defeat it and all that stuff. But it wasn't. Anyway, but Wonder Woman, the Old West, Batman in the Conan type world, Superman in a black and white noir. Yes, War of the Worlds. Yeah, I saw that. And it was funny because I had seen Crisis on Infinite Earths before that, which has Flash going through different time eras. And there's one where Batman is in a Conan type world. In that, there's a little Flash. He appears, and then he's like, "Hey, is that Batman?" And then he disappears. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, interesting." And then, of course, I watch War World, and then Batman. That happens in Batman. Batman's there, and some guy, he's in the water, and some guy appears, and he's like, "Hey, oh," and he's like, "Well, who the hell's that guy?" Which is, direct tie into the two of them. So, it was good. But I saw it in the wrong order. But yeah, that's all right. Crisis on Strength of Warworld. Yeah, I like Crisis on Two Earths. Honestly, better. Maybe I drag me for that or whatever, but that was a very fun one. I don't know if that's a storyline that they, that's from a comic book, or they just.
If I
it's,
think
it's.
that,
Do you know the storyline?
If it's the one I'm thinking of from pre-Crisis, there was an Earth 1, Earth 2 storyline.
It's
with the Justice League and Justice Society.
Yeah, it's another version of Earth. And basically, everybody it's got Ultraman and Superwoman, which is really Wonder Woman.
Oh, okay, that's Earth 3. That's Earth 3.
Earth 3.
Traditionally, that would be called Earth 3, where that's
so
they're
basically everything's reversed.
Yeah.
Luthor is a good guy, but the good guys are losing, and the superheroes are. And Owlman is Batman, and
right.
So the Justice League goes over to basically defeat these evil guys, and Batman wants to destroy the universe entirely. Owlman, I mean, not Batman. Owlman. But I thought it was very well done. Oh well, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, and there's various comics that had similar storylines as well. So if you think the comics by themselves are hard to keep track of, start mixing in the variations from the animation, it's going to get real wild.
Yeah.
But
all right. Well, we'll have to work on that. I'd like to. Just Young Justice would be good. Having just a show where we'd talk about the various comic books. People the great runs from Marvel and DC that people should collect or read if they can. That'd be one other one too. I was thinking about doing a show before of just the DCEU animated universe, the my favorite films from there. But there's quite a lot of them. I'm pretty sure I looked on their website. There's at least 25 to 30 films, and they're making new ones all the time. Crisis on Infinite Earth, I think, is 2024 or 2023. It's fairly recent. It's 3 films, and they're still doing them. Yeah, so.
Oh. Yeah, I should probably dig into this myself. So we'll maybe talk about it offline.
All right. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to mention? We've been going on long enough. Hour 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Nothing else.
No.
All right.
We got a show on Thursday, so we
have a show on. We got Babylon 5 on Wednesday. The Mercy issue. And then we've got we're gonna have a show on Thursday, and I think what you're gonna try to pick. Let's find a topic. We'll find a topic to pick because I am not good at these. What's going on in the news stories? I am not good at those. They just die on the vine. So yeah, we'll have to pick. I mean, last time we did Dead from the Dugout, we had a topic, right? So we should go. We got to go back to that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So tune in Wednesday night for Babylon 5. And then Thursday, we're going to do this show at the same time, noon Central, 1 Eastern, 11 Mountain. Yeah, and hopefully we'll have a topic by then, right?
Sounds great.
Okay. Well, that's it for the show, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming by. Appreciate all the info in the chat. That's why we do it. We love the chat. That's what we like. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks.